Oh, what a great sight. The trucks on pit road rolling off for the first practice of the season. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Daytona International Speedway. You see the clock in the upper left-hand portion of the screen, just underway here for this 80-minute session. A lot of new drivers, some on the full-time basis that haven't been a full-time competitor before, and some just new. And right out of the gate, it's the 16, and that is Brett Moffitt. Not the way you want to get your season started.
Really surprised. He never even got up to speed.
Didn't hit anything, I don't believe, so there's a positive there.
Very unusual.
Only thing that would concern me, we'll have to take a look at it here to see what happened, but
see him trying to get up to speed. Think maybe just carried a little bit too much speed on the flat of the racetrack there, Michael?
Yeah.
Cold tires?
I did that one day.
We get your attention right out of the gate.
I was afraid, Phil, that maybe he tried to go from second gear to third and maybe shoved it up in first.
Yeah.
But that did not happen, so there won't be any damage to the engine there. But just running wide open, leaving pit road, and didn't have enough banking to hold that truck.
And Brett Moffitt, he's no rookie. I mean, he's a veteran driver, ran competed in several races last year, a winner in this series.
You know, he might call the team and say, wow, I got a lot of horsepower in the hood of this truck. That thing got away from me.
And it's Brett's first race with this team, and so he probably did radio back and say, you know, that's not going to work this way every time. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to be a little smoother next time.
Y'all have seen me win before, right?
This isn't the norm.
Look at that, Vince.
Love that view from the visor of Matt Crafton. We'll get a better look at it in action when we come back. The trucks racing at Daytona for the 19th year. Been racing here every year since 2000. The first of 3 practices here at Daytona today. It's presented by Toyota, and we are currently under red after just a moment because of this incident involving Brett Moffitt in the 16 as he was leaving pit road for the first time.
Yeah, a lot of these guys just making single truck runs to see where they stack up and where their heights are, and they have to stay below the double yellow line as they exit pit road till they get to the backstretch. And Hermie, was he just carrying too much speed or what?
Well, Phil, they're diagnosing the issue right now, but Mike Ricci and Scott Zipadelli both believe that they had a flat right rear tire as the truck was leaving pit road. So maybe ran over something leaving the garage out to pit road. From the feedback from Brett Moffitt inside the truck, did not even go through the gears that hard leaving pit road. So they feel certainly some damage to the tire during the spin, as you can see, but they feel like it was flat before he got on the racetrack. So the good news is he gets a new set of tires, he'll get back out and start over again, but a interesting start to practice for the 16.
Yeah, not just Brett Moffitt, but a new team combination as Moffitt goes over to the 16 and joins, as Hermie said, Scott Zipadelli as crew chief. Moffitt, a former winner, won at Michigan in 2016.
Phil, you talked about how much you were looking forward to getting on this racetrack, going out and find out what your truck's got. The second truck on the track spins around, you still got to sit down there and wait, and that time just crawls by, doesn't it?
That almost seemed like it was waiting a whole winter long for 2 months for those guys.
Interesting situation here with the 4 truck out of the Kyle Busch Motorsports stable. David Gilliland running here at Daytona. And of course, veteran Cup driver, started more than 300 races in the Cup Series. But got to keep in the seat warm through the first few races for his son, Todd Gilliland, who will run on a full-time basis once he turns 18 years old in this 4. So driver by committee the first few races in that 4 machine.
And remember, for the folks that were used to seeing this number 4 with Christopher Bell, they've actually swapped numbers. Rudy Fugel, who was the crew chief on the 4 truck for Christopher Bell last year, has moved. He hasn't gone anywhere, but they changed the number of his truck to number 18. And Noah Gregson moved over from another of the KBM teams to Rudy's team. So this will be the 4 truck this year, but it is not the same truck that won the championship, the owner championship last year.
So David Gilliland running the 4 here at Daytona, and then Kyle Busch will be the driver for this truck at Atlanta, and then Spencer Davis at Vegas, and then the 4th race of the season we'll see Todd Gilliland get in it for a full-time run.
That's 4 for 4.
There you go.
4 different
4
drivers.
good ones.
Yeah, pretty good year last year for that Ford truck.
Christopher Bell, as you mentioned, now of course in the Xfinity Series, will be driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, a 5-time winner last season.
He really dominated the mile and a half, especially early on. There's another one there at Kentucky Speedway for his 3rd win of the year.
But then he stretched it out to the 2.5-mile tri-oval up in Pennsylvania when he won Pocono, got the win in New Hampshire as well. He's got a handful of wins there, doesn't he, Phil?
He also threw an Xfinity win in on him late in the year as well.
And that was the look of Christopher Bell's truck a year ago. Of course, it had the number 4 on it. Now that look carries the 51, and Spencer Davis from Dawsonville, Georgia, the 19-year-old.
Really good music back in the day from the Spencer Davis group.
You know, I was reading the notes over the wintertime, and I'm thought, I know Spencer Davis from somewhere. Where do I know him from? The rock and roller guy.
Yeah, great band. Stevie Winwood.
We'll learn a lot about this young man before the season's out.
Nice young man, too. Nice family.
Vince, I'm looking forward to these times. You talked about some of the changes, and that one of the changes are the power plants under the hood. We have the new NT1 engine that some of the teams are using, and then we have the engines that teams ran last year, the original equipment manufacturers, Toyota, Ford, Chevy. So how those times match up to each other, I think everybody is really curious how that's going to look.
Yeah, they're really just a handful of trucks with the OEM engine. This is one of them with Spencer Davis. David Gilliland actually has the NT1 in the 3rd Kyle Busch truck, the 4 truck. Kyle's 2 of his trucks have the OEM engine, and the one with David Gilliland driving has the NT1.
And I think a lot of people, as we look at Stuart Friesen in the 52, I think a lot of people are curious to see how the two match up. How is that the Toyota going to match up against the NT1? Is one going to be better than the other? At what tracks is one going to outperform the other? I think it's a big question mark that a lot of people want to see the answer to. Will Daytona provide us a clear indication of that or not?
I don't think so, because of the restrictions put on the engine here. Now, we may see the same thing happening when we get to Atlanta, but I think you have to treat them separately. But from all the talk in the garage here, and not only are us 3 looking forward to see some of these questions answered, every single person in the garage area wants those questions answered as well.
And I just want to put an explanation point beside this NT1. This is a great thing for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. These teams are going to be able to compete with better trucks, nicer trucks, because they're going to spend less on the engines. And when you spend less on the engines, the teams are going to spend money. They're just going to make their trucks better. And Phil, what I think it's done is brought 5, 6, maybe even 8 other trucks into the mix of thinking about guys who could possibly race up and run in the top 5 and maybe contend for wins. Guys that we didn't have that ability to say that about a year ago might be a story this year.
Well, I think so much excitement for those guys, and we went from that engine not even being a part of the mix last year to, I think, but about 26 or 27 of the 36 trucks we have on the ground here have that engine in it already.
And if you're a kid like Jordan Anderson and you look under your hood and you walk over and look under one of Kyle Busch's truck's hoods and it looks the same, you've got the same power plant in there, it just brings enthusiasm. You think, yes, I've got the same engine those top dogs have. Maybe I can go run with them.
Looking at the 18 out of the Kyle Busch Motorsports camp, that's Noah Gragson, winner last year at Martinsville.
You guys mentioned what would be the game plan for these trucks in practice. The 18 truck of Gragson is on a qualifying run. He ran the first lap up around the wall, real at the top of the racetrack, to get the momentum going. His last 2 laps, he has really been hugging that yellow line, as you can see, the bottom of the racetrack. He's coming off turn 4 now. They have told him we want to complete 2 laps. Unless the water temperature of the engine climbs above 245, then we will abort this run. But so far so good. He's done with that qualifying run, but they got that out of the way. They can check their travels, make sure they have all the clearances like they want them, and then go to work in the draft on the 18. But they got a mock qualifying run out of the way.
Noah Gragson working with the championship maker. I call him Rudy Fugel, the crew chief. Does it put more pressure on Gragson to perform, considering the fact he's now working with Rudy, who year after year after year takes his driver to championship level?
maybe a little more pressure, but I think more excitement than anything, knowing that he had such a great year. He and Marcus Richmond really got on the same page and ran really well last year. Got that big win at Martinsville, and I think this is just the next step in the evolution to basically go in the 18.
Yeah, and I think this kid has all the talent it takes. I'm almost going to make him my championship favorite in 2018. I think that they can do some special things with that 18 truck.
It's not Father's Day, Veterans Day, well, it's not even Valentine's Day anymore, but there's father-son out there working it with Joe Nemechek and John Hunter. Joe in the 87, John Hunter in the 8.
And how significant is the draft? You're looking at the 2 fastest trucks in Daytona. They paired up, ran down into the mid-48 second bracket, over 184 miles an hour. So just a little indication of how important being out there with another truck is.
Yeah, half a second faster than our next fastest truck that ran by himself, and that was Noah Gregson.
John Hunter Nemechek will run in the Xfinity Series for Chip Ganassi Racing this year. Not a full-time ride, but 15 or so races, 15 to 20 races up in that number. So we won't see John Hunter on a full-time basis in the Truck Series, but we are seeing him this week here at Daytona, and we'll also see him at Las Vegas. Next week at Atlanta, he'll make his Xfinity debut for Ganassi.
How cool must that feel for Joe Nemechek?
I was just thinking the same thing.
You guys both have sons that race. Stefan has run some. You haven't raced against him. Vince, your kid has just done an amazing job running sprints and midgets, and now he's transitioned into the broadcast booth. Just seeing the roots, the history of families in NASCAR, but being on the racetrack, looking in the mirror and seeing your son, that's got to be one of the coolest feelings ever.
John Hunter's done a nice job in that ride, and it'll be interesting to see. I think he'd be one that you'd have to consider on the list of favorites to win here tomorrow night.
Oh, I think without a doubt.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
You see John Hunter with the fastest speed and Joe Nemechek second quickest. Those two putting those speeds up together during that draft, whereas Gregson, Gilliland, Friesen, etc. were all single truck runs. Beautiful day in Daytona. Love it here. The first of 3 practices today for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, presented by Toyota. On board with Cody Coughlin. Made a switch over to GMS this season. Gallagher's team, and stout team as always, we expect.
Talk about somebody that really came on towards the end of the year. Cody really had some strong runs, highlighted by that 3rd place run he had at Phoenix in the next to the last race of the season.
Teamed up with crew chief Jerry Baxter for the first time. Of course, Baxter was the winning crew chief here at Daytona last year with Kaz Gralla as his driver.
Brett made it.
Yep.
This is a lot better effort than that first one.
First time Moffitt, if you're just joining us, first time Moffitt tried to get out on track. He spun before he got through, I think, turn 2.
The team speculated that the right rear tire was down when he left pit road, and that sure had the look of that, didn't it?
I'm interested to see this combination of team and driver. As you look on the right-hand side of the screen, what happened earlier to Moffitt.
His team said he wasn't really on it off that exit of pit road. It looked like to me he was hammered down pretty good, and if that tire was soft at all, there's no way he was going to be able to hang on to it with no banking down there.
I would guess he was already in 3rd gear, going probably running 140 or 50 miles an hour, I would think, at that point on the apron. But
Moffitt ran 5 races last season, had a couple of top 10s. Of course, we mentioned earlier that win in 2016 he got at Michigan driving for Red Horse. But I like this combination. I mean, Brett Moffitt, a very capable driver, and you're putting him with this Hattori team led by crew chief Scott Zipadelli. Here's Moffitt with that win at Michigan a couple of years ago.
What a great battle he had with his teammate Timothy Peters for Red Horse Racing.
And maybe one of the boldest, best moves we saw all year that year was this.
Yeah.
Outside into the grade, he sweeps around the 2 leaders.
Nobody ran up there that entire race.
How did he know to do that? No choice.
What a great day it was for Brett Moffitt, getting that victory and putting that winner sticker on his truck. A day he'll never forget, that's for sure. Hopes to have many more of those, and wouldn't be surprised to see it with this group. Hattori Racing, they were right around victory lane last year, just couldn't quite get in with driver Ryan Truex.
Yeah, I think that's a great combination. Ryan Truex did a excellent job in this truck. They've got a really strong team. Shiki Hattori really stepped up to the plate last year with Mike Gricci over there, Scott Cipodelli. And oh, by the way, Scott Cipodelli was the crew chief at Red Horse when he won that race at Michigan.
And Ryan Truex has made the move to the Xfinity Series, so fans want to keep an eye on him at that level. We saw David Gilliland early. Let's check in and hear more from him. He's with Hermie.
Well, good speed in the truck so far, top 5, but you've got the drive shaft laying on the ground of this truck. What is the issue, and how you guys going to try to attack it?
We got a little bit of a vibration, but all the KBM guys are working hard. They'll get it figured out. But super happy to be back in the truck, man. Pedigree on board, and they're going to be with my son this year, and he's letting me keep the seat warm for him this weekend. So it's killing him, but it's good for Pops to get some track time again.
These guys were saying the vibration was maybe going through the gears, but not on the coast down. With your experience, what does that lead you to believe?
Yeah, I mean, they had a little bit of a vibration before, maybe on chassis down a little bit, and they flipped the drive shaft, and it seemed to get a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and put a different one in and see how it is. So Daytona, everything, you notice everything at Daytona, everything, you know, up there with the restrictor plate and the drag and everything, you kind of feel everything. And it definitely has a little bit of vibration that we're going to work to try and fix, but they'll get it tuned up.
Vince?
David Gilliland hadn't made his truck start since Homestead of 2015. Now he's going to race here at Daytona. How advantageous is that then for him to be able to share some of that information with his son Todd before he gets in the truck for a full-time basis at Martinsville?
Yeah, I think it'll be really helpful, probably more so when Todd goes to Talladega later in the year when he turns 18 and he's able to run at Talladega. I'm not sure how much of this will correlate to running Martinsville when Todd is able to jump in the car, or truck, excuse me.
Early stages of practice. Practice number 1 of 3 for the trucks at Daytona. Gilliland surveying the track and the activity here on the 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway. He's not going to be 18 until March, so he won't be able to get in the truck until, well, he'll be in at Martinsville.
May actually.
Yeah, I think it is May, 18, but he'll be able to get in the truck at Martinsville, so then, because it's a smaller track, but he can't run these big tracks just yet. So in the meantime, his dad is keeping the seat warm for him here at Daytona.
We talk about a lot of these guys not being in a race vehicle until today. Well, Todd has. He won Sunday night over at New Smyrna in the K&N series.
How about all the excitement and just waiting to see how this is going to go for Todd Gilliland? He's been so successful in the K&Ns. Everything he's run, he's won. He had some good runs in the trucks last year. I think maybe one of the most anticipated rookies to come to the series in a long time. Can't wait to see what he can do.
We saw David Gilliland in the 4 truck. Of course, he's driving that for Kyle Busch Motorsports, but he also owns his own team, and he does so with Bo Lamastus, who's driving this machine, the 54 truck.
Yeah, Bo had a good run going last week in the ARCA Racing Series event. Got caught up in an accident not of his making, driving for Chad Bryant. But they formed a truck team here, and they also had an ARCA car, and they had Noah Gregson in that ARCA car, and he was in contention to win late and got taken out again in a situation. But good to see David Gilliland really step up to the plate here in all forms of racing.
Phil, I watched the ARCA race. You could keep going and talk about many drivers that got taken out of contention during the course of that event. That was a wild one, and I tell you, I wouldn't expect tomorrow night to look much different. These guys want to win at Daytona worse than anywhere, and they've got an opportunity to push their way to the front. They'll take advantage of that.
Talking about a small world, Lamastus played high school baseball for my uncle.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
The head coach at Jasper High School, Jasper, Indiana. Lamastus, good baseball player back in the day, and now behind the wheel, looking to make his first truck series start tomorrow night here at Daytona. Let's check in with Hermie.
Vince, we mentioned at the top of the show how many things were different this year at Daytona for the 88, but after a couple runs on the track, Junior Joyner and Matt Crafton both very, very happy. He told me they did a kind of a semi-mock qualifying run, and even though a truck pulled out in front of him, he had to lift a little bit, still about 3/10 faster than what they were last year in qualifying. So they're very happy with the speed, the drivability, no issues so far with the engine. So next for the 88, we'll be going out when they can get enough trucks together, go out and do some drafting. But so far, so good in the 88 pit.
You know, we hear about Daytona and Talladega, these super speedways where drivers talk about, oh, it's not too hard. You just mash the gas, particularly on a qualifying run or so forth. But how much drivability do you need? How important is that at a place like here at Daytona?
It's very important, and it's mainly because of what I said a second ago. They're going to be pushing and shoving, so you have to understand when things get tight that you're confident that you can crank that wheel to the left and hold it there. I remember the night that I got the win in the Truck Series. That was the key to my success. When they started going 3 wide, I could go up the middle. I didn't have to think about what my truck would do. I knew it was under me. And so you focus on that, Phil, but it's really difficult to give feedback to your team here about things that they will want to change. Sure, maybe you could lower the track bar. Well, will it run as fast with it down there, the team will say. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered when you talk about the adjustments you want to make on your truck.
And they're hardly going to be making any of the adjustments other than maybe for heights, because that's what they're doing right now when they make these single truck runs. When they get out there in packs, and we'll see some of that today for sure, maybe even before the end of this first practice session, then those guys are going to get a good feel for whether that truck will run up through the middle, whether that truck is able to pull up on another vehicle.
And right now, Ben Rhodes is saying, drive's perfect. Everything's good. All right, well, we made a qualifying run. Our travels are right. We like the way our side skirts look. We love everything about the truck. Let's roll out there and get in a pack. And then Ben's voice is liable to go up a couple octaves when he tries to explain what the truck's doing. It just gets so crazy in the draft. Things change so much.
Ben Rhodes scored his first career win last season at Las Vegas.
Well, we need to move over a little bit there. Well, we were able to do that. And then watch this move. Just a textbook restart here late in the race and drives 3 wide on the bottom. What a move.
And was able to hold off Christopher Bell, obviously, who dominated the mile and a half. There he is right there, holding off Christopher. Eddie Traconis is pretty happy. I tell you, that young man really came into his own. He just raced smarter last year and obviously had a lot more success. And man, that's a good-looking Alpha Energy Solutions truck right there, too.
Visited with Eddie Traconis for quite a while yesterday, and he said the fact that he and Ben are working together for a second year in a row is going to be, they believe, really paying dividends for them down the stretch of this season, and the confidence that Ben gleaned last year from winning, and really looking forward to what this 41 is going to do this season. They believe they're going to be a championship contender. Let's check in and find out a little bit more about what's going on with Brett Moffitt and that 16 team.
Yeah, Vince, just want to kind of put a period on the story for the 16 as far as the early part of this practice. We saw first time on the racetrack, spun down on the apron before he ever got onto the banking of the racetrack. So they've come back in, they've made a run and checked everything that you would want to check in that kind of situation. Axle, transmission, those kind of things, but no issues with the drivetrain. Scott Zipadelli said they feel confident. There was a flat right rear tire on the exit of pit road. The concern now for the 16, he said, we just need more speed. So they got that out of the way, but they are just trying to find a little more horsepower and speed on the 16.
Right now, Moffitt 19th quickest of the 24 that have been on track.
Yeah, that truck is one of the trucks running the OEM engine, the Toyota engine.
And there's Scott Zipadelli. Just under 50 minutes left in this first practice at Daytona. A lot of folks down here just enjoying Speed Weeks. What a great place to be.
No better venue than Daytona for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series season opener. Led by the youngest driver in the field, Kaz Gralla. The green waves. The season is underway.
Gralla got such a good start. Bell followed right along and dove in behind him. Outside lane. Oh! Contact.
Early crash here at Daytona.
This is what stage racing is all about. There's 10 points on the line and one precious playoff point. Oh, and they're going to crash.
Trouble on turn 4. Christopher Bell out of shape again.
A lot of damage to Bell's truck. Matt Crafton's going to be pushing hard. Gralla's got to have the restart of his life.
Coming to the green and 2 laps to go.
Matt Crafton upside down.
Crashing up and over. They're crashing. The youngest driver in the field, the youngest driver to win a pole award, and Kaz Gralla, the first across the finish line.
Kaz Gralla got that first career win last year. Who's it going to be this time around? Is it going to be a new winner? First practice The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series here at Daytona, presented by Toyota.
Vince, you said there's no venue like Daytona in that piece, and Matt Crafton was upside down. I bet he was thinking, well, you know, sometimes this place is really special, but when you get the trucks out in a pack like this and they start to mix it up, anything can happen.
Michael, top of the show, you talked about how the veterans love to come here. Matt Crafton, Johnny Sauter. Guess who's leading this pack right here? Matt Crafton, Johnny Sauter.
And the kids that are chasing along are thinking, man, I wished I knew what those two know. I hope I can learn in this practice session some of the tricks of the trade, how you draft to the front, how you make moves, when you pull out of line. That's what this is all about.
See, John Hunter Nemechek pulled out of line there, did not gain anything. Now he's going to get a little bit of help from the 98 of Grant Enfinger. Let's see if they can pull back up to that pack. Also, the 28 of Brian Doza, that red and white truck, is also in that pack.
On board with Crafton, you see the 21 of Sauter.
Looks like Crafton will flare high in this corner and let Sauter peek under him. That's just a chance for Crafton to see what his truck was like out front. Now he wants to get behind a couple of trucks, and we talked about the handling changes. That's when things really start to get dicey. When you fall back in line, trucks are going to just be a little bit freer, a little bit looser, a little bit harder to drive. Just less downforce when you're back there, and it could cause you an issue.
See Cody Coughlin, the 2 truck, that Jevs truck, also in that battle. Cody finished 11th here last year. That Justin Haley in the
24
in the middle, and the 24.
Yes, sir.
Justin wasn't old enough last year to run this race.
Look how tight they are on each other down there. Phil, how do you balance what you need to learn and wrecking your primary truck? What's that like for these teams?
Yeah, I think you want to be cautiously aggressive out here. You want to put your truck in every position possible. You want to be leading in the bottom. You want to be behind like Matt Crafton is. You want to be in that second lane. I don't know that we'll see that much 3-wide racing. That we'll certainly see tomorrow night. But you want to put yourself in every possible scenario so you know how your truck's going to react.
So you saw Crafton go from the front of the pack, dropping back to the tail end of the pack. And someone keeping a close eye on this, an interested viewer, is Myatt Snyder with Hermie.
Yeah, Vince, you're checking out the drafting on the racetrack. I know you want to get out and get in that pack now. A new team, new manufacturer, but you do have some experience here. A top 10 finish last year. How much confidence does that give you leading into this season and your ability to maybe get it done tomorrow night?
Well, like we said, we were just watching the drafting on the screen over there, and we also saw the replay of the race last year, and so I got pretty lucky and fortunate to avoid all the carnage that happened. I was right in the middle of it when Crafton was up in the air, but yeah, you know, I've always had pretty good luck on super speedway tracks, and they're a lot of fun to race. So I'm pretty confident, and the team's meshing well together. You know, I'm really happy to be at Thor Sports, so yeah, just really excited to be here, and I think we'll be pretty good this weekend.
Confidence level is very high for Mike Snyder in the 13.
Yeah, Snyder was 10th here at Daytona, as he mentioned, and 3rd at Talladega, one of 3 drivers to be top 10 at both the super speedway races last year.
You know, Phil, we've been around this deal for a while, and you pick up on things, you see trucks that look special. Let's put the 24 truck of Haley as one of those trucks. He was back in the pack, able to drive to the front, and that's hard to do in a small group. You get a big pack of trucks out there, sure, you might be able to push forward, but he did something right there that I think will get his crew chiefs and maybe all the crew chiefs in the garage attention because he was able to make those moves.
You think you see Matt Crafton up in front of Johnny Saw? Do you think these two might get together? Now Matt's going to pull down and get in line and maybe see if they can work their way from the back to the front. We saw Matt go all the way to the tail end of this line. Now he's back midway up through that pack.
Spencer Davis on the high side. We talked about his first laps around this racetrack. He's getting ready to get a little eye opener here, isn't he, in this pack? That 51 truck.
And you can go out there, and we showed a lot of trucks early on, go out there and run by themselves. Like Ben Rhodes, we were talking about. Truck just handles perfect. Whole different animal here. You can feel that draft, and the drafter will move these trucks around quite a bit.
See John Hunter, he just peeking to the outside to see if there was enough momentum to pull up beside the lead truck of Haley, but didn't have it. Ben Rhodes is flared to the outside. You can see Johnny Sauter filling that hole there.
Now you've got this pack here of 6 trucks, and then you got another pack kind of straggling behind of 4. So 10 trucks in the group. Quite a bit different than 32 that we're going to have on the track to start this thing on Friday night.
Your head needs to be on a swivel, Vince. You can't imagine all the information you're trying to take in. Not only watching what's happening and making sure you don't make a mistake, but also learning and figuring out when that truck gets there, I got to push. I need to remember that. These drivers are just onboard computers right now, taking in everything they can. You can see the wiggling truck of Coughlin there. That could cause an issue. You got to put that in your brain. Coughlin looked a little loose in the pack. What's he going to do when we're all out here together racing tomorrow night?
These trucks right now are looking a little bit reminiscent of the trucks in the Clash the other night. I mean, the cars in the Clash, they look like they were dancing around pretty good. And we interviewed several of those guys on the Fox FS1 broadcast, and they said they were hard to drive and made a lot of changes.
Well, that's what these racers are learning right here. Their setup that they love so much, not so much when it's in the pack. It was good by myself.
On board with Cody Coughlin. Good look there, the 68 of Clay Greenfield going by, and the 51 of Spencer Davis. There's the 24 of Justin Haley.
Clay had a great run at Talladega, had a top 10 finisher, just run sporadically, but really did a super job at Talladega last fall and finished 8th.
I think he was in a couple of wrecks and finished.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody there wasn't a record, at least one.
It's always good to see Clay at the racetrack, and I know he loves Daytona and Talladega because he has a truck that maybe isn't as aerodynamically sleek as some of the others, and in the past didn't have the power they had, but that draft makes up for all that at these places, and you can put yourself in a position to grab a top 10 like we saw Clay do at Talladega.
Yeah, Clay got hurt over the winter in a dirt car. I think he broke his wrist, didn't he? And I think he had to have some surgery around his wrist, so it's good to see him back here at the racetrack.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter or Instagram or one of those social media sites where he was thanking his doctors for helping him get into shape to where he was here in Daytona. So very thankful, blessed to be here, he says, and certainly good to see the recovery for him.
You see the speeds, of course, along the left-hand side of the screen, but not so concerned about the speed chart here at Daytona as you would be at some of the other racetracks because of the draft and so forth. I mean, just about everybody's going to feel in the draft they're going to be able to run with the group.
Yeah, I'm looking down there, and you get down to about 13th, Noah Gregson. That's probably the fastest truck that we've seen run by himself. All these other speeds are drafting, so we can see, you know, almost 10 miles an hour difference between running by yourself and running out here in the draft.
Johnny might have learned enough, Phil. Bailed out.
Still more than a half hour left in this first practice, the first of 3 for the trucks at Daytona. Grant Enfinger, the fastest so far. The first practice for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series of the 2018 season, coming to you from Daytona and presented by Toyota.
Glad to see all those trucks able to drive back to the garage.
Yeah.
Unscathed.
Cool to see Matt stay on all 4 wheels.
Good little drafting session there between. Oh, they have 10 in the group, I think, among the 10.
Yeah. And Vince, we pushed it up past 192 miles an hour. That's amazing to me. Matt Crafton's checking his tire sheet there.
Explain what we're seeing there, Mike.
Well, you get temperatures on each tire. And if the right front tire is hotter than the right rear, that generally means the truck is maybe just a little bit tight. The pressure is on that right front tire. When the right rear tire heats up, that means that back might be hanging out a little bit. And then also they check their cambers. They want to know how their air pressures are building up with the camber in relationship to the camber. So there's a lot the team digests from the Goodyear engineers just with that little piece of paper.
There's the 54 Bo Lamastus. Talked about him a little bit earlier in the fact that it's the David Gilliland team. Gilliland and Lamastus, co-owners there. Yeah,
baseball player Bo
and
Lamastus.
Crossley, of course, is the maker of the jukebox that we see as a trophy at Kentucky Speedway.
Yep.
Bono Mannion, the crew chief on this 54 machine.
Back in the day, I used to field an Xfinity team out of Sherrilsport, North Carolina, in a garage behind my house. David Gilliland's built and bought my house, and that shop's still there. Wonder if they're building that truck there.
Quite possibly.
See Lamastus ARCA history. Good looking truck.
Yeah, it is. They really put a nice effort. Started out with a late model team, super late models David did, and then they kind of branched out into the K&N series, and now the ARCA Series as well as the Truck Series.
Well, and the quality of equipment that Gilliland has put out at each of those levels, even when it wasn't for his own team, but just from a business perspective, you wouldn't expect anything less for them to bring a nice piece here to Daytona.
Yeah, without a doubt. They won at the super late model level in the Cars Tour and other places, and then won certainly in the K&N Series most recently Sunday night at New Smyrna. And just a matter of time before they put it all together here. And I think we're going to have several different drivers in this truck throughout the course of the year. I think David's going to run it some as well.
You want to try it 1 week?
No, probably
not really.
No.
How about you, Mike?
I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with running my last race last year at Daytona. Got to take my car home after the race. It was in one piece. Put it in my garage.
And a top 10 finish, by the way.
Yes, sir.
You spent all that money too already? Yeah, for sure.
I don't have that anymore. There's some issues with my finances we need to talk about later, Phil.
Does it feel weird, though, Mike, after all those years to come back to Daytona and not be racing?
Yeah, a little bit. But, when last year we came down here and I knew it was the last one I was ever going to run, and it was my 30th Daytona 500. And when I left here, I was thinking that's my history now. Let's just move forward and be a part of the truck broadcast with FS1 and obviously all the NASCAR that's here. And it makes me happy that I replaced that career with this career, because you guys are my teammates. I love Hermie wandering the pits, and just everything we're able to do together is fun.
What do you remember from your win here in 2011?
Just how
in the truck.
Yes, sir. Just how intense it was. And Phil, we talked about this earlier. Just how much those trucks changed from the time you were out there qualifying till then you got into race trim, you got in that pack. And I remember the first 30, 40 laps, we ran straight in a line, too wide. I was on the bottom of the racetrack, and I thought to myself, I've made 40 laps here. I haven't moved one position. How am I going to win this darn race? And then
something's going to have to happen.
Yeah, things are going to have to change. And then just things get jumbled up. People start pulling out and trying to make it 3 wide. I just want everybody that's in this race, if you're a kid, I know they've worked with their spotters and they've talked to their owners. They've watched videos of everything that happens. And that's what's important. Make sure you've at least seen it. You might not know how to do it yet, but you've seen it and you can try to apply it.
See Matt Crafton chatting with Cody Coughlin. They were teammates at ThorSport last year, but Matt's trying to help Cody because they were out there in that pack together, telling him how those trucks move around and where to be.
Practice continues at Daytona. Good look at Matt Crafton, former series champ. We saw him talking with Cody Coughlin a few moments ago. Maybe having conversation about this. You're riding on board with Crafton, and that's Coughlin up ahead of him.
Yeah, when they get down into turn 3, the thing that happens, Vince, and these guys haven't been behind the wheel of these vehicles in a while, you start to make moves, and the quicker you make them, the more your truck jukes around. And you could see down into the corner, Coughlin just wiggled a little bit. He wasn't in a good spot. Had there been someone on the outside of him, he could have crashed the whole field. So I think Matt Crafton, the experienced veteran he is, saw what happened with Coughlin, watched him wiggling around up there, and decided he'd have a chat with the young man.
When he actually wiggled a little bit and got down close to that truck on the inside, it pulled that truck on the inside out towards him. We talk about side drafting all the time. That wasn't his intention, but yet the same thing applied. It actually pulled that inside truck over towards him.
Phil, let's talk to Matt Crafton. We'll talk about the drafting in a moment, but new manufacturer, we talked about the engine, all the new things, but your first runs on the racetrack, single truck runs, what have you learned?
I mean, I was very happy with our Menards Ford F-150 at good speed. We had somebody pull out in front of us when we were doing our run, so it didn't get a real good AB there. We went out in the draft and was very happy with it. I mean, led the draft for a couple laps, went to the back, started working my way to the front, and then it just started getting a little bit of chaos. And I know where we are on our backup truck. I mean, we have one, but it would put these guys in a terrible bind. And I know this is a really good piece. So I said I think we're just going to do a few runs the rest of the time when we're here.
I saw you speaking with Cody Coughlin, a teammate last year, but not this year. But you were speaking to him a little bit after that drafting session. What was that about?
It was just talking about how his truck was. I mean, I'm friends with Cody, and I saw that his truck was wandering on the track pretty good through the tri-oval off the corners. And I was just asking how it was, and like I said, I'm friends with Jerry Baxter as well, and just wanted to see what he thought about it. And he says it wandered pretty bad, but he wasn't relaying, I don't think, as bad as it was. Because I've been doing this for quite a while, and you see some of them that are like, oh, that guy's in trouble, how bad it's wandering. And he just don't have as much speedway experience, how bad they should wander and shouldn't wander. So I just let him know they need to adjust the toe on the thing a little bit and just try to help him out in there.
That's Crafton, Vince.
Good stuff from Matt Crafton. I like that perspective. Oh, look at that. Hey, it's lunch. Well, it is lunchtime. It's 12:30. And a little something to eat. Yeah.
Idle time. The champion is decided by the driver that finishes the highest amongst these four. The 23 race season comes down to this. One final race. Homestead Miami Speedway. The champion is determined tonight. What a special night. There's our championship leader, Christopher Bell. 20 to go. Time is running out on Austin Cindric, Matt Crafton, and Johnny Sauter.
Bring it home, champ.
Christopher Bell wins the championship.
And a first NASCAR championship for Christopher Bell.
A little more frustration, though, for Johnny Sauter.
Started to come up a little short.
Certainly a lot to be proud of if you're Austin Cindric. And how about this team?
You guys are the best in the business. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you, Christopher Bell. Where did you come from?
A great smile on the face there of Christopher Bell, the champion from a year ago. And this championship season begins here at Daytona this weekend. NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice. This is the first of 3 practice sessions. Check in with Hermie Sadler.
Well, Vince, a minute ago we talked to Matt Crafton, one of the veterans. Now we'll talk to Spencer Davis, a rookie in this series, making your first series start here this weekend. You got to compress a lot of information in a short period of time. How does helping teammates to be able to lean on help you do that?
It's real big, especially when you have someone like David Gilliland as your teammate this weekend. He's ran a couple 500s and definitely ran a lot of truck races. So, any piece of information I can get is nice. Some of the veterans like Crafton, they know you're going to have to race you. So, they can help you out too. So I've been taking all the information I can between everyone who's raced here that I've known and hang out with.
What have you learned so far, or what has surprised you the most maybe about drafting in a truck here at Daytona?
Definitely the closing rate. I ran that ARCA race at Talladega with Venturini Motorsports, and those things kind of stall out, kind of a car length back, kind of the rookie buffer, I guess you could say. But, man, these big cabs on these Tundras right here, they punch a big hole in the air. So the closing rate's crazy when you get up behind someone.
Talented racer, and Vince also got a veteran crew chief, Mike Hillman Jr., on the box. So they got a great package to race with here starting this weekend.
It's going to be interesting for Davis. He'll run with Hillman in that 51 here at Daytona, and then next week at Atlanta, and then he'll move over to the 4 truck with crew chief Marcus Richmond to run Las Vegas. So some good experience for Spencer Davis, and some would say, well, wouldn't it be better if he stayed with the same crew chief? But there's also experience to be gained working with some different crew chiefs.
Yeah, without a doubt, especially within that organization too, because they really do operate as one team. It's not 3 separate teams within that organization. So, and they're all very, very talented crew chiefs as well.
Yeah, we'll give Davis a check mark on his interviewing skills too. Did a nice job articulating there to Hermie exactly what he's feeling and the differences between the disciplines of ARCA and the Truck Series. I really was enlightened by everything he said, and sounds like he's really tuned in. That's, like I said earlier, you just have to pay attention every second that you're at Daytona to make sure you're learning, especially when you're making your first start ever here like Davis is.
See the 75 of Parker Kligerman, another you'll have to consider one of the favorites here tomorrow night. He took it to victory lane at Talladega last season.
Yeah, we watched that race at Talladega, and he was as aggressive as anybody on the racetrack, pushing and helping people get to the front, got to the front. This looks like this might be the last lap where we had a bit of an incident. See, Johnny Sauter's in that pink and white truck. He's down on the apron now, getting caught in that wreck, but Parker did an amazing job here and holds those guys off.
You saw him taking it to the tailgate of that 13 truck, pushing hard. That's what happens at the end of these things. You've got to get aggressive. He was the best at it.
Kligerman finished 3rd here in this race a year ago. Always runs well on the restrictor plate tracks, and as mentioned, would not be surprised to see him right up in the mix battling for the win tomorrow night.
45 truck, Justin Fontaine in this draft as well.
Good to see him on the racetrack. Last time he was on this racetrack in the ARCA race last year, he was upside down against the outside safer barrier. So it's a lot better view here, I think, probably from that truck than it was then.
Got a little under 20 minutes left here in this first practice. Remember, 3 practices today. We'll have them all for you here on FS1. Now qualify and race tomorrow. Racing under the lights here at Daytona tomorrow night.
Nothing better.
Justin's part of a new two-truck team with Nice Motorsports. Austin Wayne Self also involved in that team. They've moved over and basically on the campus of GMS, so they're working with GMS, have an allegiance with GMS, and I think things are really getting ready to pick up for that team.
We mentioned the schedule tomorrow with qualifying and the race. Qualifying at 4:30 Eastern tomorrow, and NASCAR race day at 7 o'clock. Go racing at 7:30. All those times Eastern. Hope you'll be with us. More practice yet to come here at Daytona. This first practice presented by Toyota. Great to be at Daytona. NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, first of 3 practice sessions today. You'll see them all right here on FS1, and it is an absolutely beautiful day. I hate it for you folks in other parts of the country that might be experiencing winter, because here today it's sunny and temperatures in the upper 70s.
Just rub it in, why don't you?
Yeah, well, you know, well, you can. It was not very nice here the last couple of days. If that makes everyone feel better. It was very overcast and chilly.
What about this guy, Phil? I'm telling you, Chris Fontaine will be at the front of this race tomorrow night. He always does that. You asked earlier, Vince, about that 2011 win of mine. He was the key to things happening. Kyle Busch got a hold to the back of that truck. They pushed him 3 wide. They went to the front. He's always in the mix for the lead here at Daytona and Talladega, and that just speaks so much about his talent behind the wheel. He can figure it out. He doesn't get to race all the time, but he's always in contention.
But you mentioned Kyle Busch. It seems like every time that Chris and Kyle were in that same race, whether it be here at Talladega, they always found each other, or Kyle found him, and they worked together.
Let's check in with Hermie.
Dalton Sargent piloting one of the GMS Chevys. A couple drafting sessions so far. What is your truck doing that you like, and maybe where you'd like to be a little bit better?
Yeah, our Performance Plus motor oil truck feels pretty good right now. This is my first time on a super speedway in a truck, so it's a little bit of a learning curve for me, but I feel like, you know, we're getting it down, and luckily I have some really good teammates to kind of rely on, especially with Johnny Saunders. So I've been talking to him a little bit, trying to figure some things out, and the guys at GMS are just working really hard on this truck to make it go a little bit faster.
Good drivability right now with the 25. Done for this practice. He'll go out again in the next practice and continue to knock out that learning curve, guys.
Doug Randolph, the crew chief for Dalton Sargent, and Doug was telling me yesterday he was really thankful that they had an opportunity to test a couple of times, because not only did it give he and Dalton an opportunity to work together for the first time, but also just give Dalton some extra laps as he prepared for the challenge ahead.
Yeah, we talked about the new engine, the NT1, and they actually had a test session at Charlotte, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and anybody that wanted to was able to come. So a lot of these guys got an opportunity to work together, and that's obviously different than running at Daytona, but it was a good situation, a good time for those guys to get acclimated to each other.
Stuart Friesen in the blue 52, and that's Scott Lagasse Jr. behind him in the 20.
Scott always figures out a way to get up front on these restrictor plate tracks as well.
I was thinking the same thing, Phil. He'll push his way in there, be a part of that lead group tomorrow night.
Swap into turn 3. He'll go high. He'll go high. We'll go behind, go underneath him here, try to get out front, see if it cools down at all.
That's the second truck, the 20 truck of Scott Lagasse is the second truck out of the Tyler Young race team stable. Austin Hill will be running full time in the other truck for Tyler Young.
Guys both mentioned Lagasse's success, and here 3 years ago he finished 3rd. Last year he was 7th, so to your point, he is a guy that we would anticipate, if he can be there at the end, he's probably going to be up front and in the mix.
Exactly. Talk to Scott a little bit.
Getting to the end, being there.
Sometimes that's a challenge. Sometimes that's a challenge.
They made the swap there. Sounded like maybe a little bit of an overheating issue on the 20 truck.
Yeah, they've actually, NASCAR's opened up the grill opening. You have a maximum grill opening here at this racetrack, and it was 2 inches by 24, and they opened it up another half by 8, or excuse me, half by 16, so another 8 square inches there. So they've taken some steps to give these trucks a little bit more air to the radiator.
See on the left-hand side of your screen, our second practice today at 2:30, and the final practice at 4:30 Eastern this afternoon. Hope you'll be with us for those. Beautiful day. Back here at Daytona, there's Ben Kennedy, who normally we're used to seeing him in a driver's suit, but has stepped up into the managerial role in NASCAR, general manager of the Camping World Truck Series.
Talked to Ben a little bit last night and said, do you miss it? He said, yeah, I do. And I said, well, you really haven't missed anything yet because we haven't been on the racetrack yet. I said, but when the trucks go out in the morning, that's when you're going to miss it. He said, yeah, and especially, he said, I had a couple opportunities maybe with some Xfinity stuff or some truck stuff, but I felt like this is where I was going to end up anyway, so might as well go ahead and make the move now.
And what a good kid Ben is. I mean, he's grown up around this sport. He has so much knowledge of the business of NASCAR, but also a racer behind the wheel and what the drivers are faced with. I think his experience and the combination of where he's been over the years and the knowledge he has about all aspects of NASCAR, I am so happy that Ben is on the job as the general manager of the truck series. I think he's going to add a lot to the series.
I do too.
The 3 KBM trucks leading this 5-truck line. That's David Gilliland out front in the 4, and the 51 right there in the second truck in line is Spencer Davis.
This is
Noah Gregson, the 3rd truck.
There's a lot for that young man Davis to take in right here. Squeeze between a couple of his teammates. Look at that thing kind of bounce around a little bit. You know what's interesting, Phil? When you're new at something, and you know you're a little bit nervous anyway at 190 miles an hour. And if you move the wheel a little bit too much, then that multiplies all the problems that you have, and that's obviously natural for someone to do. So as the most important thing to do as a racer is to remain calm. Try not to move the wheel too much.
John Hunter Nemechek 5th on the speed chart, Hermie.
And he's watching our monitor, watching some of your competitors on the racetrack. You've been on the racetrack drafting a couple times as well, so break down what you have for them tomorrow night.
I feel like our Fleetwing DAB Constructors Chevy Silverado is pretty good. Our Nimco Motorsports guys brought a really fast piece. This is the same truck we ran at Talladega, just with a new body. It's revamped. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. The spec motor's running pretty good, I feel like. We're able to draft pretty well. I think we're 5th on the board right now or something. Didn't have any complaints on how it drove. So I'm looking forward to getting racing tomorrow night. It's been a long off season.
I saw you a moment ago talking to Ben Kennedy. I know you've raced against Ben for many years now. He has a management role here in the truck series. What do you think somebody like Ben can bring as far as a different perspective to the sport? How may he be able to help move the sport forward?
I definitely think it's going to benefit us. It definitely won't hurt us. From him racing, him owning his own NASCAR K&N team, he's been eyes, ears, he's a driver, so he can bring the whole different perspective into what goes on at the racetrack team-wise, and how to either get costs down or how to keep the sport alive. So I definitely think it's going to benefit. Congrats to him on his new role. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future.
And I think Phil Parsons and I got our feelings hurt last night. Mike Elfton said they finally had an honest driver, race car driver that could help NASCAR. And I'm like, how about all the rest of us? And didn't go too good for us, Filthy.
He just smiled at us and walked away.
Enough said.
Enough said, yeah.
The final minutes of this first truck practice from Daytona coming up. From Daytona, presented by Toyota. Grant Enfinger, the fastest so far. He did a 10-lap run, too. We've had several drivers that have done 10 consecutive laps. 5, in fact. Enfinger, Nemechek, John Hunter, Dalton Sargent, Matt Crafton, Cody Coughlin.
Grant Enfinger's 10 consecutive lap average would rank about 15th right now overall on the fastest speeds.
Looking at Wendell Chavis in that 49 machine.
Good looking ride there,
yeah,
with the chrome wheels.
Sobriety Nation on board as a sponsor for that truck. Looking to be full-time this year. One of 2 trucks for Jay Robinson Premium Motorsports. Robbie Lyons in the 15 truck will be the other one that's scheduled to be full-time for Premium.
Got a good look at that truck down in the garage area yesterday. Nice looking.
Wendell's just 29th fastest in this session, so hasn't done any drafting. That can pick up considerably when he gets into that mode.
No question the teams don't want to get to their backup trucks before the race tomorrow night. Do you Do you approach these practices today a little more conservatively?
Definitely, and I think we heard it from Matt Crafton. Matt got out there, saw all the drafting he needed to see. He went and helped out a couple of his fellow competitors who he thought might need to put an exclamation point by the way their trucks were handling to their crew chief so they could adjust them likewise. And he said only qualifying runs for the 88 truck in the next 2 sessions.
We mentioned a moment ago Grant Enfinger quickest so far in this session. He's with Hermie.
Well, here he is, done for this practice, top of the speed chart, which means your truck has good speed. Is it driving well enough to do what you want it to do?
It's driving okay. I wouldn't say it's driving great, but we gained some speed out of it. So Jeff Hensley, all these guys behind me, worked really, really hard bringing us a Ford F-150 here. So really proud of this Champion Power Equipment team. I think we got something to show them tomorrow.
You spent some of your time in the off-season, went on a mission trip to Haiti. How was that for you, and what did you learn, and maybe what did they learn from you?
It's definitely a different experience for me. I've never done anything like that. There's some cool pictures there. Yep, roll tide. But some guys here in the NASCAR community. Kyle Froman, who's the chaplain for the Truck Series last year, he invited me and my wife out there. So felt like it was definitely a sign we needed to do it, and really enjoyed it. So I don't know how much we really gave to them, but it definitely put a new perspective on life for us. That's for sure. It's crazy being there in that environment.
That's Grant Enfinger doing some good work on and off the racetrack.
Absolutely, Hermie, and a great perspective there from Grant. Certainly appreciate his efforts and those of the entire NASCAR community for all they do away from the racetrack. Certainly not to be forgotten. First practice in the books for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. First of 3 practices today, and then qualifying and racing tomorrow. What do you think of this top 10?
Yeah,
what do we take from it?
Well, obviously some pretty fast speeds in the draft. Ryan Doza was a great run up there in the top 5 for Jim Rosenblum, the 28 truck. But you see no Toyotas in the top 10, but that means absolutely nothing because they just weren't out there in a draft. And a lot of times you get that real fast speed when you're pulling up on a draft.
And of those 30 trucks, Vince, any one of them could run second. There's not a few of them couldn't win because they just don't have the speed to pull the draft, but any one of them could race their way up into the top 5 tomorrow night, and that's what makes this place so fun for me.
See our schedule for the rest of the day, in fact the rest of the weekend as far as the trucks are concerned, and practice today at 2:30, and then again final practice at 4:30. NASCAR race day at 5:30, leading us into the duel here at Daytona.
Vince, there's absolutely no reason to change the channel.
I think you're all set right there.
Just lock it down.
It's going to be fun. Stay right here on FS1. We'll be back with you in just a little while for more truck action from DIS.